Welcome to Divisive, the spoiler-filled, foul-mouthed comic book podcast where we talk about comic books. I'm Sly.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Darryl.
And I hate you, Darryl.
Yeah,
And,
so
hey,
sometimes we like to have
me.
Darryl pick the episode. He did this time. Tell us what we're in for Darryl.
What'd you say? What?
What's he saying?
What'd you say to me?
What'd you say to me?
I picked my childhood favorite superhero, Death's Head 2, not Death's Head 1.
Superhero.
Or Death's Head
He's not a
3.0.
superhero.
Let me just say that I, for the entirety of this comic, could not stop thinking of Sly's online tag. Because he was Death's Head 2 for, like, when we were younger and lamer than we are now. We were on, like, a lot of forums and stuff, and he was always Death's Head 2. So, reading this, I just couldn't stop thinking of him.
And Phil was, in my defense, Phil was always Dark Paladin Ramza.
Yeah, well, you know, it's cooler than Death's Head 2.
It's so crazy that both me and Sly had read Death's Head, but we didn't meet up until college, and we didn't talk about this until we were doing this podcast. I was like, we should do a Death's Head episode.
Well, if you listen to our episode about new comic book fans that I did, Darryl kept talking about Death's Head.
Yeah, he's so cool.
Because for me, at least, what happened was, I guess a lot of people didn't want to read Death's Head, so they had like a bunch of Death's Head backlog in my comic shop. And it was like 55 cents for a comic. So I bought it and I got into it. Like, this is so cool. He's like this 90s. Basically, Death's Head is like. Death's Head 2, the one we're talking about, is like this really 90s, like edgy character.
He's a big blue guy with a white skull and demon horns and like a face underneath that skull that's all melted away.
He looks like Predator.
Yeah, he's like Predator, but like his mouth is like.
It's less bug-like.
Connected.
It's more skull. Less, yeah.
Robot Predator.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought he was really badass.
You
as
thought,
I read
or
more
you still think?
He's badass.
Ass.
So I just to get to his backstory a little bit. Death's Head 2 was called Death's Head 2 because there's actually Death's Head 1 because...
Wait, you're spoiling the comic.
Well, it's not, like, people knew this already. Fuck you, Phil.
The cover of Death's Head 2 #1 is Death's Head 2 holding the head of Death's Head 1 being like, I'm the new Death's Head.
Yeah.
Death's Head holding the head of Death's Head. What a great...
Death's Head 1 is like this really cherished, like obscure Marvel character. He's probably like...
Cherished? Cherished?
Yeah, like...
I've never heard of Death's Head.
That's funny because he appeared in like, I think... Like in World War Hulk and shit like that, like in Agents of Sword, people brought back Death's Head, not Death's Head 2.
He
but
teamed up with Doctor Who in one issue.
Yeah, that's what I was to say.
What?
So that's what I was to say. Like, if you want to see like the most comics LOL stuff in history, go read Death's Head's Wikipedia page, which includes the 2 and other stealth characters. Because it starts out, he was a Transformers character, a Transformers villain.
What?
What?
And so, but what happened was, as they were like, they had to make a generic bounty hunter character to fight the Transformers. And as they're writing him, the writer was like, this guy's actually a pretty cool character. So what he did was he had him appear in another Marvel comic first. So technically Marvel had the rights to him, not Transformers. And what happened was, then he appeared in Doctor Who, and Doctor Who shrunk him down to human size, so he could not be a Transformers character anymore.
What?
And then he kind of like I haven't read all of his appearances, but he appeared in multiple Marvel comics, and like in this comic, they even say like Reed Richards and Avengers are all like, we know what Death's Head is, like we met him. And I don't know why, but in the 90s they're like, let's kill off this Death's Head, introduce the more 90s badass, because the original Death's Head was more like a humorous character.
Yeah, he's a freelance peacekeeping agent. He's a bounty hunter that goes around, and it's just like he's kind of sarcastic.
Yeah, he has I think that's the charm. Like the charm of him was his sense of humor. Like he talks in a very quippy kind of style, but he says it very dryly and always ends the sentence with yes. So like, like you say like typical comic book dialogue, but he says it very dryly. Like, me kill you now, yes, and he always says it ends with a yes. Like it's a weird way of talking. And
yeah, I'm pretty shocked. I thought this was weird just going into this, but I didn't. Like, I'm trying to imagine him as a giant robot, like, in Transformers.
Or, like, teaming up with Doctor Who.
To make it even weirder, Darryl knows this. There was a Death's Head 3 that you know?
There's a Death's Head. It's, like, cubed, and I read it.
Cubed? Of course it is. Of course it's fucking cubed.
I read it, and it's 2 other prototypes that the Death's Head 2 creator in the comic book, Dr. Necker, also made. And I found out, like, there's also the incomplete Death's Head, which took the original Death's Head story and, like, the comics and they compiled them together, but they gave it
Yeah, they reprinted them.
Yeah, a storyline with Death's Head 2, and these were all around 1993, like the latter end of it. And this was
Yeah,
like
the peak of Death's Head hype.
yeah, this was like Death's Head Overload, and then I think within a few months into 2014, he was done. There was just nothing else.
2014?
I mean, 1994.
Yeah, he had a long reign, 20 years almost.
Wait, so how old were you when you started reading these comics? I'm curious.
So I asked my mother about this since I had the comics since I could remember, and she said before even kindergarten I had Death's Head comics. That was
So they're like formative for you.
Yes, they 100% are. If you look at his design and like some of the drawings I did as like a kid in my books, it was 100% Death's Head or Charnel or like a later guy that appears as Wraithchild.
I would like to
Rachel.
plug one of Darryl's books real quick. If you want to see Death's Head influence on him, get his book X Graves.
Yeah.
Actually, more
It's
Mega Man
like
influence.
Death's Head meets Mega Man.
Yeah.
That's a very accurate
And
way.
and the book has a lot of stuff he did as a little kid in it.
It's great.
Getting into the creative team a little bit, Liam Sharp is the artist for the first series that we're doing. What do you guys think about him? Ryan, you say you don't like him that much?
He just looks like generic 90s art to me. Now, I love his work now. He's a current artist of Wonder Woman, and I think he's amazing. But to this just could have been any 90s Marvel book to me.
I think the big pages look nice. Like I thought so too. That it like I wasn't blown away by it. I'm like, this is like generic 90s art. But when it comes to like the really big action pages, they're pretty good looking.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, maybe, like, he's like a poor man's Jim Lee. But at the time, I think Ryan's underestimating this. Maybe he hasn't read that much 90s Marvel as I did. But a lot of people are doing poor man's Rob Liefeld. So this is a...
Yeah, no, that's very fair. That's very fair.
I just... What's weird here is that I'm the expert here of the comics. I've read almost all the Death's Head stuff other than the crossover. I've read like all the Dan Abnett stuff, who's the writer. And this is volume 1 we're going to be covering, but I read all volume 2, which is 16 issues, and the first 4 issues are drawn by Liam Sharp, and then the rest have a rotating cast of about 3 to 4 different artists, and no one compares to Liam Sharp.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
He is really good. Like, if you want to see generic 90s stuff, you read the later stuff in the Death's Head volume 2 arc, and then you're like, oh, this is like, whatever.
Yeah. And so just you mentioned Dan Abnett, the writer. Dan Abnett did Volume 1, which we're doing first, and then we're going to do the revival of Death's Head 2 from recently from Andy Lanning. And I bring up those two writers because they're one of the most iconic writing duos in comic bookdom.
If you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, that's entirely based on Abnett and Lanning.
Really?
work.
Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy because Guardians of the Galaxy exists as a series before them, and the characters from that made up that team existed before them. But Guardians of the Galaxy as a team with Rocket Raccoon, Star-Lord, and Drax, that's Dan and Andy. They call them DNA. And and they worked together for a long time in the 2000s, and they're considered one of the best comic book duos of all time. And it's funny because we're reading Dan before the duo, and we're reading Andy after the duo because they broke up recently. And they said they never write each other again. I guess they got sick of each other's shit.
And he did work on this. He was the inker.
Oh, he was the anchor?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I think both of them are much better together than they are by themselves. I would just say that.
I would argue in favor of Dan Abnett being really good solo, because right now he's writing Aquaman and Titans is like my favorite DC book of the last like 10 years.
That's fair, but because the only reference I have is 90s Dan
Yeah, like,
Abnett.
do you think the writing in this is good?
I would say
No,
there are
I'm
parts
not
that are good.
defending the writing for this. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to dump on Dan Abnett because I think he does really good work.
The only solo stuff I've read from Dan Abnett is all 90s stuff. I've read his Avengers and shit like that. It is fucking 90s as shit. You will not think this is a good writer, like, reading it. You would think, probably like how Phil feels like, oh, it's another 90s writer writing shit.
I don't like when he tries to get like quippy with the characters.
But that's like half of it, though.
Yeah, I know.
I'm his writer.
But his description, the way he narrates stuff, is really good. There's one issue I was gonna plug at the end, but I'll plug it here. In Death's Head Volume 2, I think it's issue 10, is actually really well written, and I liked it a lot because it's from the perspective of Tuck the whole time.
Alright, so after all this setup, let's finally
So
talk
should we
about
get
this.
into this?
Yeah, let's actually. talk
I'm
about
like I'm just still shocked. I'm shocked of all the stuff you guys are saying because I thought this was such a dumb, mediocre book yesterday reading this, and you're like all this storied history and like working. These guys worked on like Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't know. Okay, let's stop.
I don't know what to think anymore. Go ahead.
All right, so it begins and it's Death's Head 1, the original bounty hunter, and he's looking for this guy that's his bounty, basically.
Named Tyler.
Yeah.
Good name.
It's like, I'm looking for Bob. Where is he? And then he lives in Tyler's world, or what? That's like his world named after him.
I think someone said Bob's world.
No, Bobby's
Tyler lives in
World.
Bob's
Remember?
world, and Bob lives in Tyler's world.
What?
You guys don't remember Bobby's World, that cartoon from the 90s?
Yes. Anyway, when he shows up to see Tyler, Tyler's like naked, strung up, and Death's Head 2's there, and he jacks like.
It's called Minion right now. Like we don't know he's.
It's like that. It's like that standard trope of like, I'm going to hunt someone, but when I get there, all his guards are dead, and someone who's obviously more badass already beat me here.
Yeah, and he jams a knife into his skull and sucks out his memories. So then
And he says like intellect assimilated or
Yeah,
something.
instinct.
yeah, and right now Death's Head 2 is known as Minion. And
The most badass name there is.
what's great is Necker calls every Death's Head prototype she makes after this Minion still. 3 different times, 3 different Death's Heads after this.
Oh my god.
So he teleports back and he sees
No, he doesn't just teleport. He doesn't just teleport.
Oh yeah, he jumps through time too.
Yeah. That's a big difference. I was like, what? These people can just go throughout time to hunt people? Like, it's a cool idea, but
He learned it from Doctor Who,
Yeah,
apparently.
literally, that is where he won it from, because Doctor Who sent them back through time as well, and that's you have to get a time machine to get back. That's literally true,
Oh,
Brian.
I was joking.
I know, you're sure it was really true.
I thought it was actually like a cool idea, the idea of like bounty hunting through time, but in reality, it's really stupid because then it creates all these plot holes where it's like,
Yeah.
well, why don't you just go hunt them as a baby? Like, I mean,
They don't have the knowledge then, though.
oh yeah.
It works for Death's Head 1 a little bit because his books are more humorous, but when you try to take it more seriously and gritty like this one, it less works.
Yeah, it's any story that has time travel is going to be like haphazard and gonna have plot holes, especially if you're a 90s action story.
Yeah.
So Death's Head returns home to his creator, Dr. Evelyn.
Death's Head
Necker.
2. You have to keep it straight.
Two.
You're selling the
Yes.
Death's Head live
Yeah.
right
And
No, you mean Minion, sorry.
she works for AIM.
AOL
In the year 2020.
Yeah, and they're trying to find out they're gonna get killed real soon, so they're trying to make a robot that will help defend them from this unknown threat. And so she made Minion, who's going around and assimilating minds into his being, so he harnesses their intellect, and he has 104 or 5 by now, but he's slowly
Yeah.
becoming more and more rebellious. So
I think
then-
it's interesting, like, he absorbs their instincts, so I guess the idea is if you kill a bunch of great warriors and stuff, you'll get, like, their instinct for battle, which is kind of a cool idea, I thought.
Yeah, I like that, although it's a little weird too because like the next guy absorbs has 4 arms and it's like how does that help you when you have 2 arms?
I guess it's just like like battle sense, like
Yeah.
I personally find it weird though. Maybe I guess it could be cool in like a Highlander way where you get all the knowledge of every warrior alive or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I feel like every person has different instincts and they'll clash. Like Reed Richards' instincts aren't gonna be the same as fucking Death's Head
It really depends on your like your skill set and loadout. Like not everyone should have the same instincts. Spider-Man should have different instincts than fucking
the Hulk.
Reed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
What do
whatever.
you think is a stupider name for a murderous robot? Minion or the X-Men villain Nimrod?
Obviously.
Well,
Nimrod.
Nimrod actually, I thought Nimrod was stupid. That's because Bugs Bunny ruined that name because he kept calling Elmer Fudd Nimrod when Nimrod was a legendary hunter from history.
Yeah.
So it was
Oh, I didn't know
Bunny
that.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
it's
didn't know
really-
either. I was always like, why would you
we're-
name a character Nimrod?
We're getting so much lore this episode.
But then I looked it up, and Cliff Comics actually trying to be classy, but our lowbrow Bugs Bunny addle brains was doing that fucking reference.
Well, okay, so are we lowbrow for thinking the Hitler mustache is a Hitler mustache? No, it's just it's in the collective consciousness of humanity. We have to get over it.
Jesus.
yeah, we have to adopt child mustaches to make everyone get over it.
Guys, can we get back to this scantily clad pink alien woman with heaving
Yeah.
breasts?
Yeah.
Who,
Tell me better.
This is the dumbest part, I think. Of,
Oh,
of
really? This?
Death's Head, is that all women are kind of just like they all look the same. I mean, this alien girl looks different, but she has a totally human body, whereas like the guy that Death's Head is fighting to save her from looks completely different, like alien-like.
It looks like every woman in this whole series that we read, the 4 issues we read, is like from one of those like cheesy 80s covers where it's like the Amazon women of Mars, and it's like all of them scantily clad, like swinging through the trees with guns.
Yeah, and they always have like it's like the really high riding V-shaped underwear or like
Yeah. It's just the that's what 90s Marvel looks
Just
like.
look at a picture of a 90s art of a woman, and that's all the art in this book, and most art from that era too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking of leotard. That was the word.
Yes.
Yeah. So he saves this woman. She's like, "This is great." And then he teleports back, but then Death's Head 1 found him as soon as he arrived, and he's like, "Oh, this is great. This saves me having to find you because you're my next target to assimilate."
Yeah, 2 says about 1 to clarify.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So,
Also, to make it more confusing, the woman he saves is like she can see the future, and she calls Minion / Death's Head 2. She calls him Death's Head because she can see.
And he's like, "That's somebody else. That's not me."
she's
and
like,
even
"It
though
won't be you." It's
yeah.
foreshadowing, guys.
It's not foreshadowing.
It's great
It's
writing.
explicit.
It's so they fight and they have a cool fight, and then
Subjective.
they do. They
That's
punch each other
pretty
and stab each
subjective.
other, and then Death's Head 2 takes off Death's Head 1's head. Ugh.
It's kind of awesome.
And then
yeah.
and then he assimilates him. And he's like, "Great," and then he's like, "Oh no, something's wrong." And then he goes to teleport away, and then Dr. Necker has to chase after him.
And no,
Before he
and-
leaves,
oh,
he talks in Death's Head's tone, saying, "I'll be back." Yes.
And also the staff is like, he's gone back to kill someone named Reed Richards, as if they don't know. Do they not know Reed Richards in the year 2020? I don't.
And also, Dr. Necker goes alone, even though she has AIM, which is like a private army.
And she
Yeah.
goes from her science suit to her 2-piece bikini battle
And she
suit.
dresses in front of her soldiers, by the way. That stuck out to me when we read it.
Maybe she doesn't care.
In the future, everyone's like post-sexuality. Like, yeah, I just my
The future,
My
this
commander
is-
undresses in front
No,
of
it's
3 years.
that sexism and misogyny's cheek again. So it's like, we should dress like this because this is cool.
It's her time.
I
travel
kind of
outfit.
want. I was kind of hoping reading this. I was like, Death's Head 2020. I could get into this. So, and not only do they go to fight Reed Richards, but they go to 1992, which that's when this came out, right?
Yeah.
So current Reed Richards, who's super ripped.
He is
Everyone's
so buff. Yeah, the 90s thing is like, when you draw men, they either have to be dorky and skinny or fat, or like so ripped that it's beyond belief. Like,
He had abs on his
just
crotch.
pumping iron the whole time? Like he's waiting here in this restaurant?
Can he get buff if he's made of like putty?
You know, for Reed Richards, actually makes the most sense because Reed Richards can just shape his body to be
Yeah,
buff.
that's true.
Oh, yeah.
So
it
he's
probably makes the most
consciously
sense.
giving himself like huge abs
Okay,
for no reason.
All right, I can see that.
So, the issue 2 starts with Reed Richards in a restaurant waiting for Sue, and Sue's running late.
Oh, by the way, for people who like don't follow.
Oh, yeah.
consciously,
Mr. Fantastic and his wife, the Invisible Woman.
from Fantastic Four.
Yeah, from Fantastic Four. So, thank you, Sly. So,
This is
he's
why
waiting.
Darryl liked them so much. He saw them in Death's Head.
It could have been.
And he's waiting, and she's running late. She's at some, like, function or whatever. And Necker shows up in her bikini and her guns and this huge gas mask, and she's like, what's her first name? Like Kate? No,
Evelyn.
it's
Evelyn.
Evelyn. She's like, I'm Evelyn Necker. And Reed, without missing a beat, is just like, Evelyn, that's my mother's name. And she just goes, I am not your mother.
And this becomes a
There's this
recurring
weird,
joke.
running joke they have.
Yeah.
I don't even get it. 'Cause,
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Every issue, she meets someone new and says another part of her full name, which is like Evelyn Clarice
Sarah
Marin
Necker.
Necker. And people always say, "Oh, Martha's my mother's name." Like Captain America says this.
Yeah.
Fucking war
As they're like
from the
going to
planet.
die, they're like, "Oh, that's my mother's name."
Yeah.
It's a joke. It's just like the punchline's weird. You're like, and? Like,
There's no
why?
punchline. It's just like, why were they saying
It's
this?
an anti-joke. It's the 90s.
yeah, true.
Jokes are
So
stupid.
then she's like, Reed, we have to leave. And he's like, why? Is somebody going to attack us? And then Minion attacks them. But Reed moves the fight outside of the restaurant. So they
She's
can
just
flee.
like blasting everywhere, and he's like, there were civilians, and she's like, I don't really care.
Yeah. And Reed Richards, the ultimate inventor who invented like rocket ships and teleportation devices, gets in a taxi and they escape.
Wait, here's a question that I you might know just how comics handle time travel in general. Is there a separate timeline every time you time travel?
It
Yeah.
is. This comic sounds bullshit, by the way. There's a separate timeline every time you time travel.
No, that's what I mean. So, but then, okay, So
Because this story and all of the Death's Head 2 stuff actually centers itself around the idea if you go back in time, it's the same timeline. So, like, if you kill your mom, you'll never be born.
no, but then how come like Minion destroying New York doesn't affect people to not make Minion in the future in the first place?
That's
right?
why the original, the one Marvel set up after Days of Future Past was always you create a new you create a new timeline, and even that Marvel has reneged on. It's the dumbest thing ever. They fucking had it right the first time. They keep changing it. They changed it here. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious because I there's a lot of weird time travel.
Maybe
stuff.
Marvel UK has only one timeline.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
So then we get another. It cuts to 2020, where Death's Head's partner Sprat, the greatest name I've ever seen in a comic book.
He's like an elf scientist, basically.
Is he an elf?
I don't know. I haven't read anything about him.
He finds Death's Head's like headless body, and he starts crying, and he recovers him and takes him to their base.
He looks like Jimmy Olsen.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then Necker, we cut back to 1992, and Necker just basically recaps issue 1 that Minion is trying to assimilate everybody, and Reed is just like really mad that she wants to kill Minion. And Sue gets to the restaurant, and the maitre d' says to her, "Oh, Reed was here, but he left with a younger woman." And Sue gets really grumpy, but he doesn't mention like the firefight.
I figured
or,
that
like,
was a
the
joke. 'Cause
assassins.
Isn't the restaurant like smashed? Right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has to be a joke.
But it's so stupid.
It's
so
weird.
stupid.
It's weird because like the comic switches back and forth between wanting to be like really edgy and being funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the Thing shows up and like stalls Minion a little, but gets totally jobbed out. Johnny Storm, the
Yeah,
Human
I
Torch,
was
shows up.
shocked. I was like, oh, the Thing will definitely beat up a robot. But
yeah,
no.
and also like Death Set. That's one reason why like I think people like Death Set 1 better, because Death Set 1 was pretty underpowered. He was just like a fun character. Death Set 2 was like this OP. They really did the 90s thing where they have to show how badass he is. Here he kicks the Fantastic Four's ass. Here he takes X-Men's ass. And here's he was stupider because he takes out Thing by tossing him on a barge. Well, I'm pretty sure Thing can leap distances like Hulk can.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
also,
and that's
he
what I
cuts
liked
him.
about
He
this
cuts
too
through his
is that
skin.
he was overpowered.
Of course,
Oh,
he was like,
of course, yeah. I want to
kindergarten.
just have 6 legendary Pokemon, and then I'll have fun in Pokemon.
Yeah. Death's Head's like, he's immortal and his right arm can transform into anything he wants. Like, I wish I was him.
But then and then in that vein, Johnny Storm shows up and goes flame on, and lights on fire, and then Death Set 2 goes no, flame off, punches him once, and he's out for the rest
but
of
Johnny
the
Storm,
story.
actually do like
Johnny
that,
Storm's a
fuck Johnny
pussy.
Storm.
Yeah, fuck him.
Yeah, I don't like Johnny Storm, but like he's on fire. You
Yeah.
can't just punch fire away.
Oh, if you're a
A
robot, you
robot
can.
can.
Yeah,
with
a robot can, I
105 like instincts.
Yeah.
My instinct, punch him in the face. That's what I love too. It's like, the whole instinct thing is a cool idea, but at a certain point, it gets kind of redundant. Where it's like, you have to hit people and not get hit. Like,
And also, it's only used as a cheap plot device to get Death Set to take over Minion's mind.
Spoilers. So that's what Reed
yeah,
explains.
spoilers, you piece of shit.
Another thing that blows about it is that he never actually uses the instincts. Like, he's never like,
Yeah.
oh, I learned how to do this from this.
Yeah,
he
ever.
just punches and shoots stuff all the time.
Yeah.
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 Like, it's like he absorbed 105 idiots.
So Reed and Necker reach the Fantastic Four headquarters, and he deduces, which Sly already spoiled, that because Death's Head was a robot.
I spoiled
his-
the title. We talked about it called Death Set 2 like multiple times. Right? Fuck you guys.
So because he was a robot, when Minion absorbed him, he took his entire consciousness instead of just his instincts, and now they're fighting for control. And
It's like he downloaded him into his head.
yeah. And Necker wants to suppress Death's Head, but Reed's like, no, Death's Head's awesome. We gotta repress Minion. And so he tricks Death's Head 2 into assimilating like a
You
computer.
mean Minion?
No,
Yeah.
this isn't a trick. This isn't a fucking trick. His instinct was literally just bust through the door and say, "Hey, what's up?" And he had a gun aimed at the door and shot him. Like, it wasn't a trick.
Yeah, what he did was he made
Fantastic.
he made Death's Head the most prominent mind, and Death's Head like in return says, "I'll just absorb this computer, so I'll spare your life because you spared my. You basically saved my life in this Minion
okay.
body."
So then he assimilates into Reed's computer, so he gets Reed's knowledge, and then Death's Head takes over Death's Head 2's body, so he's just Death's Head 2 now.
No, he takes over Minion's body and becomes Death's Head too.
shit. And then Necker kisses Reed on the cheek, saying thank you, and leaves this big lipstick mark. And then Sue gets home, and she's like, hope you had a fun time.
Yeah.
I like the idea that Necker went in to get Death's Head 2 or Minion back with lipstick on. She's like, I gotta look good.
Oh,
And
yeah, it's
then-
true.
And then we cut back to Sprat, who has called Baron Strucker, who's like the head of AIM.
It's Baron
Nazi
Strucker the
guy.
fifth, to be fair. But
Yeah.
Baron Strucker is a fucking Nazi. He's a Nazi who founded Hydra.
Yeah,
And like, in comics, he's basically Nick Fury's arch nemesis, basically.
yeah.
And what happens, like, he hires this guy who's like, I can't wait to bring back my family's legacy of Nazism. And Sprat's like, oh, I trust this guy. He's a good guy.
Maybe he doesn't know who he is.
Yeah, don't trust Nazis.
Yeah, he calls him to help fix Death's Head, and he just he punches out Sprat, and he's like, finally, I have my life's work. I have Death's Head body.
Yeah. I have Death's Head without the head.
Death's Head 1.
Death's Head 1.
And also, he's going. His goal is to kill AIM, Alien Messenger. But like, wouldn't he go after Shield or almost any organization that fucked over his father more, or his grandfather?
No, it's AIM. Because AIM's part of the story.
I can't believe how much I dislike this comic reading it, and I'm disliking it more every minute.
Really?
Yeah.
We're not even at the best issue?
So I'm gonna need some help on this one, I think, because I have no idea what happens in issue 3. So Death's Head, he's in some like Middle Ages like planet that I thought it was just.
This literally opens with, you don't even know it's Death's Head. It's narrating from the perspective of like merchants who are in the year 2450, and they're like, we've been leaving the keep, but every time we've been ambushed by bandits and worse. And they're like,
long story short.
no, we can't shorten this.
No, I just get the basic idea out from this planet out of the way. It's basically technology was outlawed, like because of the technological war, and now it's basically a complete ripoff of Robin Hood. There's literally a Sheriff of Nottingham character, and they explain like it's the same setup as Robin Hood, where like the king is gone, the sheriff now is like a corrupt asshole, and the guy called the Hood is like robbing the rich and giving.
And this, not only is there no technology, like no guns, but they also like hate robots because the technology war was like a robot war. So everyone's like, fuck robots from now on. So so the Robin Hood band, the Gang of Merry Men, is that Gang of Merry Robots actually.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of outlaw robots, but of course there has to be a girl character, but she's a robot kind of, but she's actually just like a replicated organic. So she can look like a hot like girl, but
She looks kind of exactly like Necker.
I thought they were the same character.
I want to ask this to Darryl, because you read volume 12, volume 2, and I read like half of it. Like, is Tuck not a complete waste of space?
Tuck is a complete waste of space.
Okay. Because all she seemed to be there when I was a kid. When I was Darryl's age, while Darryl was like, this is so cool, all this, he could do anything. Death's the best character ever.
Yeah, and he's got this hot synthetic girl.
Even at that age, I was like, why is Tuck here? Like, she's just here to be hot, I guess. Like,
Yes.
she does nothing.
And that's what's
Darryl
great.
loves
You're like,
it.
yeah, you got like this hot woman on your arm always, even if you look monstrous and gangly.
Oh, that's why you like it.
Yeah, it's like if Death's Head
I literally thought that was Necker pretending to be someone else.
So
for a
did
while.
I.
I was like, oh, she's saying her name is Tuck, and she's saying she's a robot. And then when she showed up later, I was like, what? Like,
Spoilers, Tuck becomes Death's Head psychic. I don't know why I didn't just make Necker his psychic. I don't know why.
Yeah,
because she's like the antagonist, kind of. Liam
also,
Sharp.
she's a robot, so she can relate.
Yeah, Liam Sharp draws Tuck exactly like Necker.
Like so much that I'm not exaggerating that I thought they were the same character until they were both in the same room.
Same thing. So I'm gonna save the Sprat stuff for the end and do it all in one shot because it's so interesting. So here we see Dr. Necker, who again I thought was Tuck, teaming up with the Sheriff of Nottingham, and the sheriff, she's like, "Oh, I'm, Evelyn."
It's the same joke. You have to
whatever.
say the whole joke.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Yeah, your middle name is my mother's name."
Yeah, she teams up with him, and she looks like a concubine.
Yeah,
like a
I think
dancer.
she is a concubine.
So it gives you
She's
some.
Leia from Star Wars: Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives you some
Yeah.
nice TNA where you're like, this is
God
great
damn it,
as a straight white male.
So, the sheriff's men attack the Merry Men and kill everyone but Death's Head, of course, and Tuck. And then Necker Necker says to Death's Head, if you'll complete your mission and protect AIM's future, I'll give you $3 million. And Death's Head this is such a jarring joke for me. He goes, wait, is that 3 million tax free? And she says, do you really think the IRS is gonna come after you? And he's like, they could try.
Also, 3 million in what fucking timeline and what time? This is what I hate. They keep time traveling and act like there's one present though. Like they always act like there's a present. Like we have to get back before AIM is destroyed. It's like you have a time machine.
To be fair, a lot of planescaping shit has this problem. I have this problem with Warcraft where they go to other dimensions and the entities made out of pure magic and stuff, and they're still like, we want gold. We want 3 million gold. They have the same exact exchange rate, same exact value of currency, all this shit. Like,
and it's always dumb, though. It's always dumb.
That is one of the confusing parts about this plot is why, if AIM's going to get destroyed by some cataclysm, why not time jump to the cataclysm, then come back and be like, oh, it's Charnel.
Well, actually, that's exactly what happens. So we see throughout the issue, Sprat is still working with Strucker and doesn't realize he's a bad guy.
You missed that there's a random mutant that they want to introduce as a character. Does he come back? What's his name?
Major
Oak. Sheriff Oak or Lieutenant Oak or whatever.
Yeah, he actually Oak. There's like 3 or 4 issues in Volume 2 where Deathhead has to come back and fight him.
I figured because they introduce him and they're like, he's a mutant and he can never be hit by the same attack twice. Like, how does that work? But okay,
that's like Darryl loves this. A video game boss.
And also, I forgot this other stupid joke. When Necker shows up, she has all these guns, and they're like, "Guns are illegal. What are you doing?" And she's like, "Go big or go home, motherfuckers." Like, they're what? Why do they care about the laws here? But anyway, so Baron Strucker uses weird Nazi magic, and he merges with the original Death's Head body to become Charnel, who destroys AIM. So when Death's Head, Tuck, and Necker reach the future, AIM is already dead. And they have to go back to 1992 to stop this, because that is apparently when Charnel first showed up.
Okay, can I have to say this again, though? It is so dumb that you're, like, in the future, you're in 2450, and you're like, shit, we have to make it back in time before AIM is destroyed. Why don't you just set the clock to the time you just left, right? It can't, like, I don't get it. And then when you show up and AIM is destroyed, can't you just be like, let's go back, like
an hour,
a day?
Why don't you go back and kill Baron Strucker, or better, Baron Strucker the first one, and stop hydrating this and make the world a better place?
Because maybe it'll be like too much of a butterfly effect. You're affecting too many variables. You need to just go and take out the thing you know is going to be the problem.
He's going through time and killing people to absorb their instincts.
So true.
Also, I will say though, to this book's credit, when the scene, the splash page when they come back and all of AIM is destroyed is really disturbing in a cool way. Like, you see like charred skeletons, they're all green and they have like smoke coming out of their eyes. These people were killed like 10 seconds ago. Like, they just died. And it's a pretty cool.
They're all like fused together too in like a tower of skeletons.
It's really disturbing. Like, there's a lot of Doom. I forgot to say, there's Doom imagery throughout these comics. This made me think of Doom, and also there's a scene, I think in the first issue, where it's literally ripped out of the cover of Doom, where the Doom guy is being clawed up by a bunch of demons and he's shooting
Baron,
two ways. And there's a image of Death's Head being like swarmed by the Tyler's guards or something, and he's like wading through them, like shooting in 2 directions. It looks like the exact cover of Doom.
I actually wonder, because Doom came out in 1993. Like, were they hyping? I guess they must have been hyping at this point.
I feel like it was like a cultural knowledge.
Maybe.
Like, everyone was just drawing the same type of things.
Yeah, maybe.
It probably is. But
I'm pretty sure Doom just ripped off Death's Head too.
They might have been influenced.
They might have, because there is like comic influences in Doom's art.
Yeah, and like I swear some of the stuff is like I see it in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So issue 4, AIM is dead, and so they go back to 1992.
No, first we have to cut to the future in 2020 when it's superheroes are all trying to fight Charnel and they're failing.
Right. So Charnel is Baron Strucker mixed with Death's Head 1's body. For some reason, this mix,
and the most important part, necromancy.
Yeah, so somehow mixing necromancy and robotics together is like the winning combination. If you do that, you become basically God. And
he was able to kick Doctor Strange's ass. Doctor Strange being Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, I think about how much in comics, when you read Doctor Strange stuff, he literally is fighting with deities, and this guy is stronger than those deities. This Charnel, this literal body of a robot mixed with some necromancy.
There's later on they say that he has the ability to think people out of existence. Or he claims it.
I will say that this is one reason why I'll stand up for Liam Sharp's art in this a little bit, because his design for Charno's badass, and the last pages where Charno appears are really well done.
The designs are pretty cool.
Yeah, and it always seems like so they're in a dystopian hellscape, right? So it's 2020, and there's a few superheroes left, and most of
Donald Trump has just been elected for his second term.
most
You mean
things have been
Charles
wiped
Trump?
out.
Ah, I was trying to think of that fast, quickly.
Charnel
So-
J. Trump.
Like like Sly pointed out, he just like it's like this hellscape where he just appears whenever he's like the ruler of this world now.
Yep.
And there's minions, like I guess they're zombie type things. Charles
Wait, minions like the robot minions?
No, sorry, that's why they call
Henchmen.
him. That's why they call him Charles Demon
They're
Drones.
actually in Death Cube. They're revealed to be his children. They're offshoots of his symbiotic metal.
I love Darryl being the lore guy.
Is that where
Yeah.
robot babies come from?
So basically the superheroes like Punisher, Daredevil, and Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange all died trying to get this time travel device from Charno. The time travel device that Charno used to go back in time.
Also, because
as
it's the
Strucker.
90s, Doctor Strange gets taken out immediately, as does Daredevil and Spider-Man, but Punisher lasts a really long time.
He's sitting on a hill holding Daredevil's body, just shooting a machine gun at this deity. Like, obviously this thing is so strong he can just wipe out everything. And as he grabs the time travel device, he just throws it back. Like, it's like we had people waiting to catch this.
And then he pulls out his knife to fight Charnel. And it's funny when it's like a kid, you're like, oh, this is cool, like all these guys fighting together. But when you read more Marvel canon, you're like, there's clear power tiers between people. It's like, why is anyone other than magic people trying to fight him? You cannot fight a magic being.
They say that like he just went in and killed Thor right away, but the Punisher, no way.
And so we go back to home base, because it's always in a dystopian future. You need to have like resistance camp where you see the hardened, because they've been fighting apparently for 20 plus years.
Oh, and
They
this
keep saying
lineup is out of control. You got everybody. You got She-Hulk. You got Rhino. You got Captain
Wolverine.
America. You got Wolverine.
You got Mr. Fantastic as a jar of putty.
Yes, that's true.
You have
Scarlet Witch, which is again the most important member on the team, arguably.
Yeah.
Also, for
So-
some reason, it's revealed that... Okay, this can't be 2020. This has to be later, because Rhino is like,
No.
we've been fighting this resistance for decades, and I
they say
always love She-Hulk. Like, what?
It's
They say
2020.
they've been fighting for 20 years, but they also say it's 2020. So someone's wrong, but I don't know.
It's Dan Abnett. He's wrong.
It's also it's also sad when you see Reed Richards in the putty soup. He's just like this sad, disfigured face, just being like, "I wish I could come with you guys." And anyway, this surviving team is like, we have to go back to 1992 and stop him when he's still. When he first shows up, he has to have been weaker. Again, I don't know why they don't just go back and stop him from being created at all.
Yeah.
But they have the same idea that Death's Head 2 and Necker and Tuck had in the last issue, where they're like, we have to go to 1992. And so they go back to 1992 and they run into each other and they're like, oh, this must be Charnel somehow. And they fight a little and they're like, wait,
They're
we're
fighting
actually all
Death's
the
Head
same
2,
team.
thinking that he's
Yeah.
Charnel.
We're all somehow Death's Head 2. They want to show how badass he is. His when Wolverine stabs him, his claws break because he must be something stronger than adamantium.
Yeah.
He's Death's Head. He's Death's Head. He's the best character ever.
Yeah, my instinct is just I'm strong. No, maybe his armor is plot armor. So
It's
anyway,
just because he's stronger than anyone in the Marvel Universe, which makes Death's Head the best.
right.
Also, one thing that's stupid, like, why would you absorb Death's Head knowledge before Reed Richards' knowledge is? Like, in terms of, like...
Yeah, why not go
hierarchy
for
of-
like Reed Richard earlier than like the four-armed barbarian?
Yeah.
Because Death's Head, I don't know.
Hey, do you know what I hate more than Death's Head? Daryl.
So
You know what I love more than Darryl? Death's Head.
Charnel shows up for his grand appearance, and he's like, I'm already super powerful. And even though they've been fighting for years in the guerrilla tactics, the first thing that happens is She-Hulk just says, just charges him, and dies immediately. And then Rhino does the same thing.
Also, She-Hulk, her costume, if I can call it that, is she's not just scantily clad, she's in like ripped up rags, and they cover her boobs in a way that you get copious over, side, and under boobs somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the only one that has like tattered rags. Even Captain America's full suit isn't scarred.
And Rhino cries, and he's like, "I've loved you forever."
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Okay, so these Marvel heroes are fight one by one because I'm sure that's how they survived in the future. They fight one by one, getting owned by Charnel, and then Deathhead's like, "Okay, you can beat those scrubs, but I am Deathhead too."
Well, to be fair, they actually have a clever. Like he actually uses his brain. Like Charnel kicks Deathhead's ass. Like he thinks Deathhead is dead, and what Deathhead does is he attaches two time travel devices.
Deathhead 2.
What?
Wait, you're getting ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you're saying, like even Deathhead wasn't that badass. Like uses his brain. Richard's part of his mind to figure this out.
Also, Death's Head 2 makes such a stupid joke that like it's almost like obligatory when you write like this kind of dialogue where he's like he attacks Death's Head 2 and then and then when he shows up again, Charnel's like, "I thought you were dead," and without even giving the full reference, he just goes, "Greatly exaggerated reports."
Yeah.
Fake news.
Also, what's really weird here is the way they explain the way Charnel got so powerful is he absorbed Scarlet Witch's power, and that's what made him into this apocalyptic monster, which is really weird because then it's like, so she went back in time to stop him and gave so it's like
It suggests a loop, but the loop makes no sense.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
especially since going back in time and doing something changes the future.
And also when they stop him, she stops existing. So how could she have ever gone back?
But the whole other lineup stays, don't they?
No, they all go away.
No,
Oh, do
died.
they all go away?
They all died.
Yeah, everyone gets killed.
Everyone dies in the battle except
Because Charnel's
anyway.
so powerful.
So Charnel's so powerful, and Death said too, like Sly said, spoilers. He puts two time travel things on him, and that sends Death's Head and Baron Strucker into two different times. I don't know how he put the time travel devices on different spots of his body or something.
You just put them both on and sent them both to different times.
I don't think it
whatever.
splits their personalities. It just rips the guy in half and he dies.
No, does it?
I don't know. Does the Baron Strucker the Fifth show up ever again in comics?
Yeah, Charnel comes back, and Deathhead has to fight him again. He reunites.
Okay,
he reunites across time again,
Oh,
and then comes
God.
back.
Okay,
Except
whatever.
this time, he's in a Death's Head 2 body that reunites with the other one, and then he looks different. And instead of having sharp jaws, he has horns, which is cool.
By the way, guys, I'm gonna have extra lore after this to bridge.
I'm gonna kill myself
God.
right now.
Go ahead.
Kill
Not kill
myself.
yourself. Go ahead with the story.
All right. So Scarlet Witch stops existing again. This time loop is so fucking stupid. And Deathhead 2 is like, "I'm cool." And then the present Avengers show up, and they're like, "What happened here, ma'am?" And he's like,
To Necker, to Dr. Necker, who's
Necker, who looks like also like Tuck and also like Rogue, kind of, or I can't tell who I'm thinking of. She looks like some other
to be
90s
fair,
X-Men.
all 90s women at this time look the same. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "See ya," and it ends
Necker's like,
with
fuck off. Like, I don't feel like explaining this shit. So the Avengers, without Necker to explain it, they go off to Death's Head thinking he's.
It's
the
weird
threat.
because Death's Head is like, "Let's go adventure, bro," with Tuck, and they're driving in a truck with the Hulk jumping after them, the Avengers chasing them, and they're like, "We'll find out later. It won't be boring." And like,
Yeah, he'll
it's just
fight
so-
the Avengers and beat them, and then go have adventures with his hot robot partner.
She's not a robot. Okay,
She is a robot. She's a synthetic.
she's completely organic though. She's like a skin
Oh,
job
yeah,
from.
yeah.
She's a skin job from Battlestar.
They call her a cybervert in part 2. So she's not a robot.
Cybervert.
Yeah, let's get into the fucking.
Yeah, all these fucking liberals want all these genders, right?
let's-
I'm with this, I'm with that, I'm a cybervert.
Oh, okay, let's bridge. So now we're going into a special from a few years back. I was kind of excited for this because this was before I reread Death's Head 2 and realized how bad it was in retrospect. And I was excited for it because, Death's Head 2, he comes back, whatever.
Did you read this when it came out?
Yeah, I did.
Because this is part of an event called Revolutionary War, and
Yeah.
I've read a lot of Marvel from this era, like most Marvel from this era, and I have never heard of this event.
When is this from?
This is part of the Marvel UK reboot, I think.
Yeah, this is a way to bring back the Marvel UK line. Probably Ryan. I don't think Ryan knows anything about Marvel UK lines, so that's
yeah,
why.
I know. I mean, I know some Captain Britain stuff, but only like from mainstream Marvel, so I guess I just missed out.
Yeah, exactly. You're a Britphobe.
It's recent, right? Because the art is very.
yeah, it is. It is. It was fairly recent. Like I think
2014.
Yeah.
2014.
So before you recap this story, I have to say how much I hated Darryl, or maybe all of you, when I started to read this one, and the intro is Mistech, a millennia-old corrupt organization, is mysteriously active once again. They've been deploying robotic psycho-wraiths throughout Great Britain. They've also started kidnapping the country's heroes, the leader of the Knights of Pendragon, Albion, and one of Mistech's deadliest agents, the Prime Psycho-Wraith, kidnapped Siobhan Hadley, also known as the hero Dark Angel. But even Captain Britain was abducted, falling prey to his former ally, Death's Head 2, a mercenary whose loyalty goes to the highest bidder. I really hate you so much, Rita.
I was debating whether we should do this one because of it was part of a crossover, but to be fair, you really don't need to know much about that show. All you have to know is Captain Britain got captured by Death's Head 2 for an organization.
No, I can understand Phil, because that's what I always complained about in comics, is look at all this nonsense.
But then you have Death's Head, which is like that nonsense to a T.
Yeah.
When I started this issue, I was like, "What is this?"
But I have to bridge the gap between this.
Do you? Do you?
Yeah, I do because it's interesting. Because Ryan says, "Oh, I don't know Death's Head." Obviously, if I don't know Death's Head, no one loves him. Like
I didn't say that.
I don't exist.
So we had Death's Head, Death's 3. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, there's 2 other spin-offs called Death Wreck and Death Metal. So we have all these.
Yeah, that's Death's Head Cubed.
Death's Head Cube.
That features Death Wreck and Death Metal, and then they got their own comics.
Alright, so Death Cube has Death Wreck and Death Metal. So you have those guys who
Not
aren't
to be
Death's
confused
Head
with Death's Head 3, which is in this comic.
Yeah, Death's Head 3
is not Death's Head Cube.
Death's Head 3 was from 2000s. What happened was the creator of Death's Head, Simon Furman, after a poll on Marvel.com, which character would you like to see come back? Death's Head 1. So Simon Furman created
Death's Head 1 or Death's Head 1?
Death's Head was victorious.
Death's Head won the number.
I was doing what's it called?
You broke
a double entendre.
Yeah. Double
Death's Head, the original, the OG Death's Head.
So Death's Head 1.
Okay, so
Death's Head 11.
The OG Death's Head,
was
the OG Death's
successful?
Head was victorious in this poll, so they made Death's Head 3.0. But people hate Death's Head 3.0. I never heard anyone say anything good about it. It was like I read a little bit of it. It was like a generic.
Darryl likes him.
Who am I? I'm a machine. Kind of shit. So Death's Head
was Death's Head 3 based after the original Death's Head?
According to this, I think this made it so because this story establishes that Death's Head 3.0 existed before Minion and the original. So I think.
Oh, so it's like a proto Death's Head.
Yeah, proto Death's Head called Death's Head 3.
Although that's technically what Death Wreck is.
Whatever, but so Death's Head faded from existence for a few years, but now in recent years, Death's Head the original started coming back. Like I mentioned, he got started in like a few comics, and he apparently got started in Superior Spider-Man, which Ryan and Joe never mentioned to me because I'll read Death's Head. I mean, Superior Spider-Man, Death's Head's in it.
Wait, is he in that? Maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah, Death's Head exists. He's in this fucking comic I read, but
Ryan, how could you forget Death's Head?
But anyway, so Death's Head is coming back a lot of times. But 2 has been gone. Like a lot of people consider him 90s shit, except for Darryl. So, but they brought back Death's Head 2 for this story, and I don't know. Maybe Darryl could be a better judge on this, but this felt really weird to read. Like it was like trying to make Death's Head modern, like in terms of tone.
Guys, I have a confession.
What?
I kind of like this issue.
I hated it. This is my favorite one out of the 4.
See, it's not bad to me. I kind of liked it just because I hadn't read Death's Head in like so long, or like that there's been no new Death's Head outside the 90s. Seeing this was like warming my heart, and in a way, I kind of know what Sonic fans feel, where it's like you have a franchise that's so terrible, but when you see a new edition of it, you're like, this is like I just love Sonic so much.
Why do you think I love when every new Dynasty Warriors comes out?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need them to be good, but they're fun, and I liked them a lot.
Yeah, and you open up the page, and then there's the new version of Lu Bu, and you're just like, this warms me.
But that's why I hate this, because if it was going to be bring back a franchise for certain charms, this one doesn't live up to them. It tries to make him feel like more like a modern, quippy comic.
It does, but I will take the scraps I can get.
Let's go through it, and then we'll talk about it.
I don't get how Ryan likes this. I get how Darryl does, because you're like, I just like that set.
Yeah.
But so, like we mentioned, some event called Revolutionary War. Death's Head 2 betrayed Captain Britain, and he brings them to the bad guys of that event.
So it starts with Death's Head 2 bringing the hero of this event to the bad guys. And it's
Wait, quick
so
question.
ridiculous.
Quick question. Is Marvel UK written by UK writers?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing, they're like, I thought the bad guy's like, I thought you were a good guy, and he's like, yeah, but not for the right price. That's why I charge double for betrayal. It helps the guilt go down smooth.
So the bad guys betray Death Set 2, and he gets sworn by Death Set 3. Like one of Death Set 3s.
Wait, but Death Set 1 is going to show up, isn't he?
Yeah. So in the future, after this, like now, like we mentioned, this is why I don't like this because. Yeah, Tuck was not a character, but now they made her into like, this weird hipster, quippy character. Like she wears like a full outfit now and hipster glasses.
Sly doesn't like her as soon as she put clothes on.
No, it's like it's not the same character. Like if you like that character, this is not the same character.
No, but she still has her like Amazon war paint on her face.
But that makes me seem even dumber. Like she looks like she looks stupid.
Yeah, don't you love doing this when they take an old character that had a shitty history and you're like, let's reinvent them. That's Sly's favorite
But the thing is, like, it just makes no sense to me. Like, it doesn't feel like the same character at all anymore. Like, I hate.
You have defended this before. You've said
I know,
some characters are
completely.
completely.
You're not being true to the tone of the character. There's a character can be consistent character wise.
But you liked when the question went from being a Randian existentialist.
But they also bridged that gap. You didn't have a character who was a fantasy character from a post world future, now being a hipster, quippy, cybervert. Like, what the fuck?
Maybe there were issues in between that you missed. They're just.
But at the same time,
Darryl, but I'm pretty sure this is the last appearance after the series in the 90s ended.
But she's here to fight against an evil government that's experimenting on robots. That seems kind of in line with her history.
No, but like I guess, but like now she's like it's just weird to me. Like now she's
Sly likes his women naked and not making jokes.
I like my characters feeling consistent. Like you might say, "Oh, fuck you, Sly."
You wanted her to be more like an Amazonian fighter.
Yeah,
exactly.
She was like female Conan the Barbarian before.
She was.
And now
she was more like
just
you mean Red Sonja.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like Phil's saying, like I'm being hypocritical. I don't think I am. I you can change. That's what I like about comics. Because you can see like the world. Even characters change, but even when they change, like in question, you justify it character wise. And I don't see how a badass Amazon warrior becomes a hipster. I guess.
All she did was get different clothes and made a. But
she's more quippy. Like, and she's like it just.
She wasn't a character before.
She was quippy.
Like she wasn't. I don't know. It seems like weird to me. I don't know.
This is a weird hill to die on.
No, it's not because Dr. Nectar act the same way. All the female characters act quippy like the Joss Whedon characters. It's like Andy Lanning calling you right one type of female.
That's a bigger thing to complain about. Is like even Necker is quippy, and Necker was always like
that should be the complaint I really complain about because. This is a problem with modern comics where everyone's so quippy that all the women characters all feel the same in a lot of ways.
Everyone's Spider-Man.
Like yeah, but like everyone's like Spider-Man now. Everyone's trying to be like the Marvel films now. When the Marvel films, like they make up for it with the actors' charm and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's very
fair. Here, it's just all feels the same. They all feel the same. I guess that's my big
I really agree that that's why when everyone was like, "Oh, superhero fatigue is not going to happen," that doesn't have to be a thing. But it's like they do if they all are exactly the same feeling. Mm-hmm. Like a one-liner, even though the city's being destroyed. Am I right? And like it gets really old.
I guess that's my complaint. It's not about necessarily being devotion to the Tuck character from the 90s who was so fleshed out, but it just feels weird to make her and Necker, who are both relatively serious, be quippy characters.
What if this is meta commentary on the fact that you couldn't tell the difference between them in her first appearance?
That's a good point.
That's what I was going to say. Is the weird thing is in their first appearance, like together, those characters were really similar, and there's like every woman tried to be like an Amazonian tough fighter back in the 90s. Yeah. Like every woman that was introduced in the rest of the Death's Head run, it's the same exact woman every time, where they're like, I have to stop you because I'm tough.
So that's kind of why I wanted to bring this issue into it, because it's like the tropes of both, the bad tropes of both generations. One was the fucking women are just there to be looked at and be sexy and be badasses, and now everyone has to be quippy assholes. So
yeah.
Fair point.
So Tuck in this future where she's freeing all these machines from this evil organization, she hired the original Death's Head to save Death's Head 2, and says, "Oh, you're gonna be saving your future self." And Death's Head says, "It's like life insurance, yes." And haha.
But original Death's Head was quippy, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So like, I was maybe sarcastic, but I actually do like some of his jokes here.
So it's okay when boys tell jokes, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but the thing, because like I said, Death's Head was always quippy. But
I know, I'm kidding.
His unique way of speaking made him more original. I guess he has his own voice. In the past, Dr. Necker, before she became Dr. Necker of the original series before she made Minion, is working for the evil organization of Revolutionary War, and now she has control of Minion, and she's like, yeah, I get to experiment on this guy, I get all his knowledge, and she
So
finds
this
out.
is like that classic, like, you see the mad scientist and she's on, like, Minion Prototype 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Necker's like, yeah, I get cool beans, I get to hang out and experiment on this Minion guy. Yeah, it's so cool. She acts like a, like I said, a modern Marvel character. And so she dissects his memories, but then she gets stopped by Tuck and Death's-Head 1. And then Death's-Head 1 and Death's-Head 2, but now it turns out because Necker was experimenting on Death's-Head 2, she has control over him, so Death's-Head 2 and Death's-Head 1 fight. They do this version of the miniseries where it looks like Death's-Head 2 is going to kill Death's-Head 1, but then Death's-Head 1 stabs Death's-Head 2 in the back, and it looks like he killed him, but it turns out he rebooted his brain.
It's such an interesting scene because Death's-Head 2 is about to kill Death's-Head 1, and Death's-Head 1's like, you can't kill me, then you'll cease to exist. And then Death's-Head 2 hesitates, and Death's-Head 1 kills him, and he's like, just kidding,
And then Death's-Head 1's like, but he will be me, and I killed him. This is going to hurt later.
He has a good joke here, too, where he kills him, and he's like, ooh, that's going to hurt later.
Yeah.
And, like, that's pretty funny, because that's you in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. So now 2 gets rebooted, now they're all fighting the Death's-Head 3.0s. But then Death's-Head 2...
Really, this whole comic was a setup so that Death's-Head 1 and Death's-Head 2 could team up and fight a bunch of Minion robots. Henchmen robots. that just... And have these cool pages where they're just, like, cutting through tons of dudes and they're talking and like, quipping back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
That's another thing I hate about modern comics. Death's-Head 1, 2 was overpowered, but they still had the sequence of events in his fights matter. Like when he fights like the warlord that has a precog captive, like he doesn't just be like, it wasn't just him quipping, fighting an endless swarm of enemies, and none of the actions really mattering until he wins. Like it is here. Like it was actually like a back and forth with the fights he had. But here,
that is something that you also see in every Marvel movie. Is the
exactly,
heroes
exactly.
just beating away like random, just whatevers,
Minions.
and they're just like talking to the. Yeah, they're like, oh man, it's rainy today, isn't it, or whatever.
And it takes away all the tensions out of the fights. Like Death's-Head 2 was overpowered, but it felt like the fights mattered. You know, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like their job was dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. And so Death's-Head 2 now remember, now to make it even less consequential, Death's-Head 2 remembers they have a kill switch which just says it, so they all die, all 3 always die.
He, like, implemented that kill switch while he was hooked up to Dr. Necker's machines.
Yeah, my secret plan was actually I did... Bleh.
all according to Gikaku.
And it says Overkill, which is a comic that UK Marvel put out, which featured a bunch of different heroes.
And then Dr. Necker's like, actually, I'm the final boss, and she comes
down
out
and Dr. Wily final boss.
I was just about to say, it's a Dr. Wily machine.
Yeah, but and they haven't played enough Mega Mans to keep up, so they all lose. And Necker, then to be continued because Necker knocks them all out, kidnaps Captain Britain and Death's-Head 1, and Death's-Head 2 and talking like we have to follow them, and they do, and to be continued. But you got the gist of the story here, what the tone they're going for.
So
I love how they're so overpowered, but she can just come out and shoot them, just like when he got shot by Reed Richards. It's like he has no instinct for fighting.
Yeah, he doesn't.
So the reason
for all those instincts.
The reason why I kind of like this is because the 90s stuff was so ridiculous to me, and I felt like this was like almost making fun of it, which is probably why you guys hated it. But I felt it was kind of like, oh, well, then never mind. But I felt it was kind of like mocking how stupid Death's-Head 1 and 2 are.
It kind of is, but like if it feels more like a straight up parody, I would like it better. This feels more like
that's fair.
a modern comic.
Yeah, it's like subversion and mocking at what cost though? Like if it's not enjoyable either, then I feel like you can do subversions of genres and parodies like in a much more interesting way. Like I've probably mentioned this already on the show, but like One Punch Man is a great example of subverting the shonen genre because it's actually a good shonen at the same time. Or Madoka Magica is a great subversion of Magical Girl anime because it also is a great Magical Girl show. But this is like not a good that type of comic either.
Oh, I'm not saying it's the best thing I've ever read, but I had kind of a little fun with it.
And also, Ryan, even you mentioned like better 90s parodies from like Grant Morrison and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So check out those instead.
Yeah. Doom Force, #1. That's a good 90s parody.
So final thoughts on all these?
Would you read more Death's-Head?
No.
I did read more
Death's
Death's-Head.
Yeah. Sly?
I would read more Death's Head 1 just to learn more about why they like that. Everyone likes that character so much.
See,
I would not read more of 2.
If you guys were doing if you wanted to do another episode on this, I would bow out for that. Literally, like, I would rather read fucking Mark Millar.
Wow.
Whoa.
Because that was always like an interesting clusterfuck. Whereas this, I was pretty bored for most of it.
Even if you were doing Death's Head 1 where he fights like Transformers and like Doctor Who.
I don't know. Maybe that.
I tried to read some of the incomplete Death's Head, which had the Death's Head 1 stories in it, and I just didn't care to do it. Mainly because I really, really like Death's Head 2 over 1. I think 1 is... The way that he is, I think he's actually a better character because, like, being a robot bounty hunter with a dry sense of humor is more kind of unique than just, like, gritty 90s action guy that has, like, mysterious past.
Yeah.
But I just really like the general design of Death's Head 2. I think that actually carries me through each of the comics. And I'm like, he just looks cool. He has red robotic dreads.
I will say his design is really cool.
Yeah.
Do you know what I love about Darryl's role on the show so much? Is Darryl goes from really deep analysis to the stupidest surface bullshit.
Yeah,
like
so
from episode to episode.
So deep that it's like sometimes it's like this plot just didn't have enough to do with like the bigger themes of humanity, and it's like, but he has robot dreads, so
and an arm that
do
can change
like
into anything. That he has to say blade configuration. Then it changes into a blade.
I wonder if this inspired the T-1000 in Terminator 2. Terminator.
Maybe. Who knows?
Wasn't 2 before this?
I
Two
think it was
was
before that.
Oh.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't think Death's Head's
I think
that
this is a
original.
ripoff. This is a ripoff of T2 probably.
Definitely.
Metal shit.
Okay, so anyway, do we have anything else to say about Death's Head?
Would you guys go back in time and kill me?
If killing you would then kill me, then I would, so I wouldn't have to read this comic.
I would go back in time to right after you made me read it, and then be like, "No, I'm too late."
Yeah, I love that. It's just so funny when you're too late and you have a time machine. It's like you're never too late.
Oh
you
no!
have a time machine.
Ryan's knocking at the door right now to stop us from recording, but it's already too late.
Hope I get back in time with my time machine.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Also, Death's Head fights Wolverine, which is really cool. That's like the centerpiece for one of the issues.
Okay, I've had had enough of this.
He also beats
That's
him because he's
bullshit.
better than Wolverine.
So
Recent Action, by the way, too.
Yeah.
thank you guys for joining us on Divisive Issues. If you don't mind, you should write us a review on iTunes and subscribe and all that stuff. If this is your first episode, we also have a Facebook group, Oops, I Talk Divisive Issues. And yeah, your support means a lot to us, even though it doesn't sound like I'm serious because I want Darryl to die so bad. And while you're hanging out on the internet, you should go to comraderadio.com and check out all the other shows at the network. I want to especially congratulate Square Roots. They got mentioned on AV Club's Podmas, their weekly podcast roundup, and like that's like the coolest shit ever.
That's a pretty big deal.
Congratulations, Square Roots. You guys deserve it.
Oh, can I bring up one more thing?
Sure.
When Death's Head goes to the Robin Hood place, he wears underwear, which is neat.
Wow, that is neat. Cool.
It's a little confusing
I actually like this now. This is actually one of my favorite comics we've read. Thanks, Darryl.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm the host now. That's been our show. Thank you all for
Yes,
listening.
Sly killed Ryan and assimilated his host duties.
Thank you all for listening. I've been AOL Instant Messenger.
I've been too late to stop this from happening.
I've been Sprat, the Elvin Jimmy Olsen.
And I've been Death's Head 2.
The coolest character.
The coolest character, TM. Gotta go fast.
Stay in continuity.